Yep. Inside, I want to kill myself. We are on an 0-7 run over the last 2 days. After tonight was just complete bullshit. So that's how I'm going to start off this show. Horrible Sunday, 1-5. I don't even know what to tell you about that. I just don't want to do this anymore. I have never seen anything like this, man. With the slump continuing, 2 straight losses, not a good day at all. 0-4. I just have not had a good season, man. With what kind of slump that I'm on, the slump continues. I've reached a new peak, actually. I'm going to burn my Bruins hat, man. I don't know what is going on with the Bruins. March 8th, is that what it is? I don't even know. It's March 9th, I think. Who even knows, man? I don't know what day it is anymore. I don't even know what day it is anymore, man. Back with you after the worst day that I could possibly have. Back with you, as I always am. Until I die, at least. 0-2 yesterday, and yesterday did not go well for me. 0-5. The worst month that I've ever had in my 18 years doing this. I don't know what to even tell you about this anymore. Broke the slump yesterday as the slump just continues. The slump continues. Somebody fucking kill me, please. I don't even know what I should do at this point other than potentially end it all. What's up, everybody? It's Toad back with you with Toadstool Sports for Thursday, April 2nd, my birthday. Not happy about yesterday. 1-2. Could have easily probably been at least 2-1. Started out nice. We got the win with the Chicago Cubs. Easy. Then the next game up looked like it was going under. Yankees, Seattle. That was a 1-0 game until like the 6th inning. First 5 inning under would have been a winner. I chose to leave the bullpens in, and the bullpens failed just enough that the thing went over because each team scored a run in the 9th inning when the game was pretty much kind of decided already at that point. The Yankees only won by 2, but still, they padded their lead in the 9th inning, and then the Mariners scored 1 run back in the bottom of the 9th, so multiple runs late in that game to send that thing over barely. It landed 8. I'm not happy about that. And then Minnesota, Kansas City, yeah, that makes me look like an idiot, but that was like, dude, Joe Ryan just did not have it. He was bad in the game. Noah Cameron put up, his line was fine. He, held up his end of the bargain. The game was still within, the under was still within reach, even though it wasn't looking good. It was 5-1. I think in the 5th or 6th inning, I'm like, well, that's not good, but hopefully the bullpens can kind of just cool things down a little bit here. No, the bullpens were an absolute train wreck in that game. I don't know what happened in that game. Double-digit runs scored in the final, 3 innings of that game. I don't know what to tell you about it. Kansas City's bullpen cannot possibly be as bad as that. Minnesota's is bad, but even theirs I don't think could possibly be that bad. We're going to move on to today. I'm going to have one play. It is in the NHL. I'm going to talk about all the other things that are going on today. We have more college basketball crown, the NIT Semifinals, and 3 baseball games, and NBA also going on today. But I don't really like any of those boards. Zach, what's up? Thanks for hanging out. Let's get into it. We're going to start with Major League Baseball because there is an afternoon game, which is, hold on, I got to zoom in here. I'm on college basketball right now, though. Let's move baseball over. Very small baseball board today. Afternoon game, Minnesota, Kansas City. Zach, there you go. Because it is getaway day for these 2 teams. They're finishing the series. The other 2 games involve the first game of a new series, which is more my bread and butter. My bread and butter is when teams are, traveling and shifting series. You can find more situational angles. Minnesota, Kansas City, though, yeah, they're finishing a 3-game series here. Now, Minnesota is trying to avoid the sweep, so sometimes I will lean towards the team that's trying to avoid the sweep because the team that is trying to get the sweep, it's like the pressure is a little bit more on them, and the other team might be able to make some adjustments. Is Kansas City going to look ahead to Milwaukee? I'm going to say no because it is a divisional series here, so every one of these games kind of matters. Yeah, you want the sweep. I'm going to be honest. I think you should get it because your ace is on the mound here, but I don't know, man. What's up? She squealed. What's going on? All right. Bullpen-wise, I'm gonna still give Kansas City a bullpen edge generally, but they did use 6 relief pitchers yesterday, which is not what you want to see. Even though Joe Ryan was way worse in the game than Noah Cameron was, Minnesota only used 3 relief pitchers yesterday. So even though Kansas City is the better bullpen, I believe, at least for now, the rest situation could kind of even that out a little bit. So I don't really see that much of a bullpen edge one way or the other. Both offenses are not very good either. Like, I couldn't even tell you really which one of these offenses is better. Now, Taj Bradley is pitching for the Twins here. Decent start in his first start. He had 9 strikeouts. I mean, he does strike out a lot of guys. I'll give him that, but he didn't even go 5 innings. He was very inefficient with his pitches. Threw 92 pitches in 4 1/3. This was at Baltimore. He held them to 1 earned run, but he did also walk 3 guys. So I don't know. It wasn't the greatest outing. Against Kansas City, he actually has dominant numbers, though. In 55 at-bats, 13-2 strikeout walk ratio, 109 batting average allowed, 286 OPS. Very, very good numbers for Bradley against the Royals specifically, which is going to be needed because the Royals' best pitcher is on the mound, Cole Ragans. I mean, don't look at what his numbers look like in one start. I mean, he had a bad start against Atlanta on the road. Gave up 3 home runs, 4 earned runs, 4 walks, 6 hits, and 4 innings pitched, 5 strikeouts. That could have been even worse. The fact that he put 10 men on base, gave up 3 long balls. I almost said long bombs. Long balls. Dude, I need to get the Curb Your Enthusiasm, Larry Long balls. Dude, that's what we need for, that should be a baseball drop for me. I'm going to try to find it. Anyway, yeah, Ragans, it could have been even worse for him, dude. He put way too many guys on base, but first start of the season, you can kind of just throw it out, to be honest. Like, I wouldn't put that much weight into that. We know that he's a good pitcher, so that's what I'm going with. We've seen what he's done throughout his career. His numbers are pretty good here against Minnesota. 44 at-bats, 17-4 strikeout walk ratio, 182 batting average allowed, 568 OPS, because he has a couple of home runs here. 1 home run to Lewis. But, yeah, I mean, I'd be looking at the under in this game, again, really, if I was doing anything with it. But I don't want to include the bullpens. The bullpens got rocked yesterday. They're not in the greatest shape here. The money's coming in on the over. We still don't know what's going on with this Kauffman Stadium with the new walls. Like, are we really going to say that this is like a really hitter-friendly park now after this park has been pitcher-friendly, and they move the walls in a little bit? Is that, like, I seriously don't see that turning this ballpark into Coors Field, even though we did see a very high-scoring game last night. The first game that was played in this series was 2 days before that, and it was a very low-scoring game, so I don't think there's anything we can really read into yet. We need to see this over the longer term, see what actually happens in the stadium. The total's at 9.5 in this game, though, which seems insane for a Cole Ragans game. It seems too high to me, dude. It really does. 62% of the tickets on the under, 90% of the cash on the over, though. Money on the over. My lean would be under in the first 5 innings would be my lean in this game. You could probably get it under 4.5 or maybe even better. Maybe 5. So with the way these two starters match up, that's the way that I see this going. Lower scoring early in the game. Take the bullpens out of the equation. For the side, the money looks like it's coming in on Minnesota. 77% of tickets, only 65% of the cash on the Royals. The line down to -151 from -160. I'm not really going to disagree with the Minnesota side here, man, because, again, they're a big underdog. They're trying to avoid the sweep here, so the motivation is probably going to be more on their side. And Bradley is better than you would expect against Kansas City. It's actually probably one of the best matchups that he could get, really. He's not that good, but specifically against the Royals, his numbers are pretty good. So that would be my opinion in that game. The night games, we have an ESPN unlimited MLB TV game, Atlanta at Arizona. Atlanta is starting a road trip off of winning against the A's. Decent start to the season for Atlanta. Sale, apparently he was ill yesterday, sick as a dog, and he still had a very good performance. So there you go. He's a veteran, man. Now they're going out on the road. Now this is going to be Atlanta's first road game. I don't love teams in their first road game, really, but starting a road trip with a little bit of momentum, a lot of times you will get a good performance out of a team starting a road trip because they'll be focused. Arizona is staying at home, but they're coming off of a sweep of Detroit, which I think is misleading. Like, I don't think this Arizona team is very good. And coming off a sweep like that, there's the potential for maybe a little bit of a letdown here, even though I know that was an interleague series, but still. I think Arizona looked better than they actually are in that series. Arizona's bullpen, I'm still going to rank them as one of the worst bullpens in baseball until we get more data here. They used 3 relief pitchers yesterday. Atlanta only used 3 as well. Sale was able to get them deep into the game, I think, yesterday. So I'm going to give Atlanta a bullpen edge here. Arizona does have the better offense. Starting pitching-wise, I mean, just looking at the names here, you know what I'm going to say. I'm going to say Atlanta has the pitching edge here because I don't like Ryan Nelson. Ronaldo Lopez is pitching for the Braves. Good start in his opener against Kansas City. 6 innings pitched, 1 earned run. Only 3 strikeouts, though, 2 walks. Looks like he did not pick up the win, even though they won 6-2. They must have won later in the game. Against Arizona, he has okay numbers in 40 at-bats, 7 to 1. Whoa, 7 to 1 strikeout walk ratio is good. 275 batting average allowed, 643 OPS. That OPS is pretty low. So Ronaldo Lopez, so he's doing pretty well against Arizona typically. Ryan Nelson pitching for Arizona. I think that there was something weird going on with him last year because he had never been that good. And then the year that all of Arizona's starting pitchers start doing way worse, he somehow starts doing way better, even though he's not even good. It makes no sense to me. I don't buy it. He was not very good in his first start this season, but it was at the Dodgers, so you can kind of, I guess, give him a pass for that. He gave up 4 earned runs, 4 strikeouts, 3 walks, 2 home runs allowed, only 2 hits allowed, but that, not a good outing there. Against the Braves, his numbers are a bit all over the place. In 55 at-bats, 11 strikeouts, 6 walks, 200 batting average is quite low, but he's allowed 4 home runs to them. 4 different batters have homered off him. 788 OPS. So Nelson, overall, not great numbers there. I'm going to lean Atlanta in this one. I think you have the better starting pitcher here. You have the better bullpen. Possible focus spot starting a road trip here. Arizona, possible letdown off of a sweep. Atlanta down from -120 to -112, but they have 74% of tickets, 90% of the cash on them. I'm going to lean, towards the Braves there, but slightly. Mets at San Francisco is the last game here. Looks like we may have had a Blue Jays-White Sox game scheduled for the afternoon here too, but that is postponed. So that means we might get a double header between those two over the weekend or something. I don't know. Anyway, Mets at San Francisco. This is the start of a new series. Mets coming in from St. Louis, so they do have to go play a late-night game on the Pacific Coast, which a lot of times I don't like that. It can mess with the team's biological clock a little bit when they're having to go to the West Coast for the first time. But they're going from the Central time zone right now and not from the East, at least. San Francisco is staying in the Pacific time zone and coming back from losing yesterday to San Diego, but winning the series. So they did win a series, but they lost pretty badly yesterday. Situation might set up a little bit better for San Francisco here, but the Mets did just lose to the Cardinals, I think, again yesterday. So that's, the Mets, it might be good for them to just start a new series. That was an ugly series for them, man. The Mets losing to a bad Cardinals team the last 2 games. Mets being the better team there. So maybe they will bounce back here. Mets used a ton of relief pitchers, though. They used 5 relief pitchers in that game. The Giants only used 3, but only Baruki only for 3 pitches. So he might be available again. San Francisco, I think, has the better bullpen anyway. So they have a bullpen edge here. I almost said the 49ers. The Giants do. I'm going to give the Mets the offensive edge, of course, here. David Peterson is pitching for the Mets. He did have a shutout for 5 1/3 in his first outing against Pittsburgh. Bad offense for Pittsburgh. San Francisco's is not really much better, though. He did have 2 walks, as usual. He walks too many guys, but didn't allow a lot of hits. Not really a strikeout guy either, Peterson. Against the Giants, he has okay numbers at 75 at-bats, 253 average allowed, 684 OPS. The one bad stat is the strikeout-walk ratio, 15-13. So, again, that's not good. I mean, that's way too many walks, which is kind of typical of Peterson, but 9 of them are Adames, so it looks like he does pitch around him a little bit. Overall, mediocre numbers for him against San Francisco. Robbie Ray is pitching for San Francisco. His first outing was good, especially considering it was against the Yankees. He held them to 2 earned runs in 5 1/3, 4 strikeouts, no walks. Pretty good outing from Ray. He had a good year last year in general, though he started getting worse at the end of the season. Going up against the Mets here, another pretty potent offense. He does have good numbers against them, an 82 at-bats, 22-3 strikeout-walk ratio, 183 average allowed, 553 OPS. So I think Ray, based on those matchup numbers, does have the edge here. That's the way I'm going to lean. I'm going to lean towards the Giants as the underdog here. Mets are -120. Maybe it's just my David Peterson hate. I don't know. I think the Giants have the pitching edge throughout this game, though, and the travel edge here. 60% of tickets, 97% of the cash on the Mets. So the money looks like it's disagreeing with me on that one and indicating on the Mets. But what can you do, man? I find myself disagreeing with these early market reads pretty often in baseball, and maybe it's a good thing, maybe it isn't. My baseball season was very up and down last year, but usually my baseball is good, so I don't know, man. And I think we're just about even in baseball so far this year, so I don't know. All right, let's go to NHL. There are way too many NHL games, man. I hate how lopsided the hockey schedule is. Oh, here, 3 games one day and then 14 the next. Yeah, fuck you. Again, make it like 9 and 7 or something, man. Like, give me a break here. Buffalo at Ottawa was the first game. Now, we have to pay attention to the standings here. Where Buffalo's pretty comfortably, they're sitting comfortably, although I guess ideally they want to try to get the overall 1 seed in the conference, which is, they're tied right now with Carolina. But Ottawa's trying to get into the playoffs. Ottawa's 2 points back of Columbus for the last playoff spot right now. So Ottawa is definitely going to be motivated here. Buffalo is coming off beating the Islanders, which is a decent win there. Buffalo with a little bit less to play for, but they are starting a road trip. Sometimes you will be focused to start the road trip. But again, less to play for than Ottawa because Buffalo's already comfortably in the playoffs. Ottawa has lost 3 games in a row. They are returning home from Florida, though. So a lot of times when a team returns home, I don't really love that spot because they can be distracted by having to get back to home life. But they're only on the road for 2 games, Saturday and Tuesday. This is a huge game for them. So I will lean to Ottawa in this one, man. I think the motivation is just stronger there. The money seems to somewhat agree. 56% of tickets, 57% of the cash on Ottawa for now. They're sitting at -115, down from -125. So when it's a team that's, in desperation mode, sometimes they will be a little bit overvalued in the market, though. But when it's a line that's just asking you to pick the winner, that's where I tend to lean to the team that does have more motivation there. I won't want to lay like a huge price with them, but with Ottawa, it's literally just pick the winner, and that's what they're trying to do there. So that would be my opinion in that one. Pittsburgh at Tampa Bay. Pittsburgh beat us the other day. It was a bad spot, in my opinion, for Pittsburgh, and they still beat Detroit. Now they're going to Tampa Bay. Part of that handicap was that they'd be looking ahead to Tampa Bay. So I don't really see Pittsburgh not putting in an effort in this game. Pittsburgh is still, they're in the middle of the playoffs right now. They're probably not going to fall out, but there's still a chance because they're in the lesser division here, so there's a chance they fall into the wild card. Pretty unlikely they're going to drop out of the playoffs at this point, though. They're the lesser team, versus Tampa Bay here, though. Coming off multiple big wins in a row against the Islanders and Detroit. And that was a back-to-back as well. Just kind of ridiculous, man. Now, it is weird to have a single-game road trip and have to go to Florida, though. Tampa Bay, they're staying at home, and they just took a loss to Montreal on Tuesday. Pretty ugly, 4-1 loss at home. I think the spot is better for Tampa Bay, man. Tampa Bay is pretty comfortably in the playoffs right now. They might still be playing for, like, seeding and stuff, too, though, so both teams kind of in a similar motivational spot, I would say. Tampa Bay, minus 171 on the money line, 86% of the tickets, 92% of the cash on Tampa. I lean Tampa in that game, but not a strong opinion, and they do look like a pretty public side there. But also possibly the side that's taking the money. My Boston Bruins are going to Florida. Bruins on a nice win streak right now, man. They've won 4 in a row, including 2 road games, both in overtime. Coming off a huge win over Dallas, though, man. And the Bruins have put themselves in a very good playoff position right now, I think I clicked on the wrong thing here. I wanted to get the standings back up here, man. The Bruins, it's not a lock, but they're sitting decently right now in the top wildcard spot with a 6-point edge over the next best team, Columbus. Bruins with a possible chance to move out of the wild card, too. They'd have to leapfrog Montreal, but they're only 2 points below Montreal here. But I don't think this is a good spot for the Bruins. It's a tricky spot having to go to Florida off of a bunch of those big wins. Yeah, there's a rivalry here. These teams don't like each other, so the Bruins still might get up for it. Florida is still the team that eliminated the Bruins the last 2 seasons that the Bruins are in the playoffs. Florida still is the 2-time returning champs as well. But Florida not having a good season. They're not going to be in the playoffs this year. They're staying at home. They just beat Ottawa on Tuesday. I think the spot is better for Florida, though, so I am going to lean to Florida in this game. Bruins are up to minus 156 on the money line. 86% of tickets, 93% of the cash on the Bruins with money coming in on that side. It looks like they're up from minus 140. I would not do that. I think that's way too much of a price. Bruins also not as good on the road. I know they've won their last 2 road games, both in overtime, but this is too much of a price to lay, dude. In a spot like this, I wouldn't do it. I would lean towards Florida. As far as Florida's concerned, they're not going anywhere this year, so this might be one of the games that Florida does put in an effort because there is a rivalry here. So I think Florida may show up for that game. Kyle, what's up? Yes, that is correct. Yes. Yep, it is my birthday. It's always a letdown, man. You know what I mean? There's I don't know, there's all this build up to it, mentally, and then you're like, oh, it's just another day. I'm old. Yeah, all right. Montreal at the Rangers here. Montreal did just beat Tampa Bay. That was a big win for Montreal. Montreal is sitting okay right now in the playoff race. They're not going to fall out of the playoffs, most likely, but they could potentially drop behind the Bruins, so there is a little bit of motivation there, but they could be in a letdown spot coming up a couple of huge wins, man. They've won 6 games in a row. They beat Carolina and Tampa Bay. Now they're going up the East Coast to play the Rangers. They're playing a 3rd game in 4 days. And actually, am I doing this right? This is a 4th game in 6 days. I almost thought it was a 4th and 5. It's a 4th and 6 and a 5th and 8. So they're playing a lot of games in quick succession here, man. So I don't really like the spot for Montreal here. Now, the Rangers, we know the knock on them is they suck at home. They're eliminated. Maybe they're going to get up for a game like this, though, at home against a playoff team. They get a chance to play spoiler against a fellow Original 6 team. Rangers have actually won 3 home games in a row. Go figure. They were horrible at home all year, and now they're on a 3-game home win streak. 2 of them, all of those wins are against non-playoff teams, though. So this will be the better of those teams that they're playing, but I kind of like the Rangers in this game. Staying at home. Yeah, they're coming off a rivalry win over New Jersey, but I think they'll get up for a game against a team where they have a chance to maybe play spoiler. Montreal, possible letdown here. They're at minus 150, up from minus 135. Seems like a bit of a price to lay on the road there. They're public. 93% of the tickets, 99% of the cash on Montreal. Yeah, I'm going to lean towards the Rangers in that one. When would I ever like the Rangers at home? No, I mean, I have sometimes, but that game I do, but that's not going to be on my card. Oh, thank you. Yes. Thanks, everybody. All right. Detroit at Philadelphia. This is a good game. These two teams are both in the wild card hunt right now. They're both still fighting to try to make the playoffs. Detroit they lost to Philadelphia on March 28th at home, so there is a little bit of a quick revenge angle. I don't really want to call it revenge because, again, it's not like that team is, like, angry. It's more like the team that lost is the team that can make the adjustments to what went wrong in that first game. Detroit's lost 4 of their last 5, including that home loss to Philadelphia. They just got bombed by Pittsburgh, and that was a bad loss that we took here on the show. I thought it was a good spot. Did not work out. Now, I think you're going to get effort out of Detroit here, man. They're better than what they look like over this recent stretch. They can make the adjustments off of that home loss to Philadelphia. They just took another ugly loss there to Pittsburgh. Philadelphia is coming off a tougher-ish loss, a close loss to Washington, who is also kind of in the thick of the wild card race right now. That was a bad spot for Philadelphia, though, kind of, because they'd beaten Detroit on the road. They beat Dallas. Then they had to go to Washington. I talked about that game. I talk about every game, but, I mentioned I leaned to Washington in that game, but Washington was also in a bad spot. Philly, definitely could theoretically bounce back from that, but I think Detroit is in the stronger bounce back or readjustment spot, whatever. I like Detroit in this game, but the money is not agreeing with me. Philadelphia is sitting at -110, but Detroit looks like a public road underdog, which is not what you want. 78% of tickets, only 75% of the cash on Detroit. I don't like that look, man. I really don't, because I lean that way. I lean to Detroit there, and the market read is something that I really would never want to be on. A public underdog like that, I always want to fade that pretty much. In this case, I'm staying away, though, but I do lean to Detroit in that one based off of the situation. Columbus at Carolina. These two teams just played each other, and Carolina won at Columbus 5-2, so there is maybe a zigzag here where the team that lost might have the adjustments to make. Columbus just lost at home. They're going to want to get this thing because Columbus was above the wild cards. They were like in the actual, they were in the division leader spots in the playoffs. Now they've fallen into the last wild card spot behind the Bruins. So just because of the nature of the division that they're in. So they're hanging on to the last wild card spot right now. And coming off losing at home to Carolina, I think you're going to get a big effort out of Columbus here, man. Maybe not so much from Carolina because they're already comfortably in the playoffs. They are fighting to get that one, that top overall seed, though, so that they get home ice throughout. But I think Columbus's motivation is stronger to stay in the playoffs completely. Carolina might take Columbus lightly after beating them on the road here. Carolina does have the Islanders next, which is a somewhat big game. I'm going to lean to Columbus in this one. Carolina, pretty big favorite. They've dropped a bit from -190 to -176. Money looks like it is on the Carolina side, but I do not agree with that. 62% of the tickets are on Columbus, 69% of the cash on Carolina. I don't see that. No, market read looks very strong on Carolina, but I don't see it at all. I think the motivation is on Columbus there, and you're getting them as a big underdog. That is the type of spot that I tend to kind of look at, where when you pretty much know you're going to get a motivated team and they're a big underdog, that's what you want. You want like the big effort out of the underdog versus maybe questionable effort from the big favorite, So that's the way that I look at that game. We have a Hulu doubleheader. The next game up is the first game of the Hulu doubleheader. Washington at New Jersey. Washington is trying to get into the playoffs. They're still in the wild card race here. So that's their motivation. They've won 3 games in a row. Beat Utah and Vegas on the road. Those are probably both playoff teams. Then they beat Philadelphia, who's battling them for a wild card spot. They caught Philadelphia in a bad spot for Philadelphia, like I mentioned. Wasn't a great spot for Washington either. Now Washington's got to go play New Jersey, and up next they got Buffalo, which I think is a bigger game. I mean, Buffalo is one of the top teams in the conference this year. So I don't love Washington in this spot, man. They're coming off beating one of the teams that's battling them for this last wild card spot. Huge game against Buffalo on deck. One of the types of games that maybe a team like New Jersey is going to still get up for is a TV game like this, a Hulu game, chance to play spoiler. New Jersey, they're just playing out the stretch at this point pretty much. They're not going to make the playoffs, most likely. They just lost pretty badly at the Rangers, so maybe they will be in a bounce-back mode from that. They're only going from Manhattan back to New Jersey here. I like the Devils in this game. That's the way I would lean. Not my play, but the money looks like it disagrees with me on this one, too. I'm disagreeing with the market on every game here, man. Washington has flipped from plus 100 to minus 108. 78% of tickets and only 59% of the cash on New Jersey. So New Jersey looks like a public home underdog, which is really what you don't want. This public, the read of the market, when you see a public team like that with less of the cash on them, especially when they're the dog, you want to stay away, man. You want to either fade that team or just stay away from it. So I am staying away, but I don't quite get it. Now, yes, Washington is the motivated, they are going to be motivated to try to make the playoffs. So sometimes that will overvalue a team, you know what I mean? Although in this case, you're really just asking them to win the game. So there is that. But even so, pressure could be on. I prefer New Jersey in that one. All right, the next game is going to be my play, but I don't know. I feel like I need to jump, take a quick break. I'll be back, and then we do a basketball to talk about too. I'm gonna be right back. Hold on. Yep. Inside, I want to kill myself. We are on an 0-7 run over the last 2 days. After tonight, it was just complete bullshit. So that's how I'm going to start off this show. Horrible Sunday, 1-5. I don't even know what to tell you about that. I just don't want to do this anymore. I have never seen anything like this, man. With the slump continuing, 2 straight losses, not a good day at all. 0-4. I just have not had a good season, man. What can this slump that I'm on? The slump continues. I've reached a new peak, actually. I'm gonna burn my Bruins hat, man. I don't know what is going on with the Bruins. March 8th, is that what it is? I don't even know. It's March 9th, I think. Who even knows, man? I don't know what day it is anymore. I don't even know what day it is anymore, man. Back with you after the worst day that I could possibly have. Back with you, as I always am. Until I die, at least. 0-2 yesterday, and yesterday did not go well for me. 0-5. The worst month that I've ever had in my 18 years doing this. I don't know what to even tell you about this anymore. Broke the slump yesterday as the slump discontinues. The slump continues. Somebody fucking kill me, please. I don't even know what I should do at this point other than potentially end it all. All right, best bet here is going to be Winnipeg. If you want to go just money line on this, you can. I'm doing a split bet partially on the plus 1.5 puck line, which I found at minus 175, and partially money line plus 140. I mean, that money line is in that range, or if you want to just do it, you could just go money line only on this. This is the split that I have on this right now. Whoops. Basically, it would be, that's quite a split, isn't it? It would be, if you're going to try to win 100, it would be like 73 on the minus 175 part of it. That part of it would return 41, 67, and then you'd put that amount on the money line. So the idea is you're basically making your own plus 1 puck line. So if they lose by exactly 1, your bet will push, if that makes sense. And some books do offer that plus 1 puck line as well. But we are going to go with Winnipeg in this one. Dallas, you could argue that they're going to bounce back here, but I think that is kind of the typical public argument. Like, oh, this is a good team. It's been playing bad recently. They've lost 6 of their last 7, and now that they're back home, they should bounce back, right? My opinion is no, that's not what typically happens because they're returning home from a road trip that they've been on for a week. They had to go to the East Coast, pretty much the Northeast, and didn't have a good road trip. But when teams return home, a lot of times they are distracted. They got to get back to home life. They got stuff to do. And Dallas does have a big game up next against Colorado, man, a TV game on Saturday. That's a huge game. And for Dallas, they're pretty much, I don't want to say they're completely locked into their spot here, but pretty close. They're already in the playoffs. They already clinched a playoff spot. They're 8 points behind Colorado, even with Colorado's loss to Vancouver yesterday. I did mention my lean to Vancouver yesterday. Outright win for Vancouver is pretty crazy. Congratulations to Jeffrey, who won money on that game. But Dallas, yeah, they're also 6 points ahead of Minnesota here. And, of course, they're not going to fall into the wild card or anything like that. So, they're fairly locked into the spot that they're in right now. So that's why they've been on just total cruise control here. And I don't think this is a focus spot for them. For Winnipeg, because they're not going anywhere this year, this is one of their big games remaining on the schedule. They're not going to be in the playoffs. They're on the road here. They're going from Chicago to Dallas. They just skated by Chicago in their last game. And you remember I talked about that. That was a sandwich spot that Winnipeg was in because they'd beaten Colorado the game before that. And they had this big Dallas game on deck. And they still got through Chicago. Chicago's not very good. But I think this is definitely one of those remaining games that you'll get an effort out of Winnipeg here. That's what we're going to do. Dallas is down from minus 178 to minus 160, so some early movement against Dallas here. It's a low total, too, which should help out with the playing the underdog here. It might be a closer game if it's lower scoring. Dallas does play a lot of lower scoring games. Winnipeg really does, too, especially if Hellebuck is in net. I don't know if he will be, but we're playing the spot here anyway, man. Total in the 5.5 range here. 91% of tickets, 99% of the cash on Dallas. Not much to read into that other than the fact that I think Dallas is a public side there. So we're going to go with Winnipeg on that one, and that is my only play of the day, being selective here. The aforementioned Vancouver playing on a back-to-back here, going to Minnesota. Vancouver just beat the Avalanche yesterday, and they were winning that game, I think, 6-2 or 6-3. Colorado came all the way back and tied the game, and then Vancouver still won and got an empty netter at the end. Ridiculous game for Vancouver. Now they're on a back-to-back. They're playing a third game in 4 days, fourth game in 6 days, fifth game in 8 days, all in different cities. Could be a big letdown for them after that huge effort yesterday, pulling off the biggest ups. Dude, I think that was the biggest line in hockey of the season, and the underdog won. It's the biggest upset of the year, line-wise, so they could be in a letdown spot, although Minnesota's not really a team that you overlook. It's just that was such a monumental win last night that Vancouver might have nothing left in the tank here, even if they want to try to put in an effort mentally. Minnesota, though, I don't exactly want to jump on Minnesota here either. They're returning home from a road trip. They've been off for a while. They've been off since Saturday, so they do have way more rest. This is a huge rest advantage for Minnesota here, but they did return home from a road trip. So, again, I'm going to mention it. When teams return home from road trips, they can get distracted. Got to get back to home life. You might overlook a team like Vancouver, although because Vancouver beat Colorado last night, maybe Minnesota's sitting around like, oh, crap, we need to actually pay attention to this game. Minnesota is going to be in the playoffs as well. They're pretty much locked in, to be honest. Like, they're going to stay in this 3 spot in the Central. The next closest teams to them are not even that close, so... So that's that. Minnesota's fairly locked in. They're at minus 410, so they're basically about the same size favorite as Colorado was last night. The reason why it's jacked up even further is because Minnesota has that monster rest advantage here. That's being factored into the line, so they might actually wind up being the heaviest favorite of the hockey season, even though Colorado is definitely better than Minnesota. It's just because of the spot. 83% of tickets, 91% of the cash on Minnesota. Oh, my God. Yeah, I mean, I can't play this game. There's no way. An over might make sense in this one. I know Vancouver was in that really high-scoring game last night, but Vancouver, they're not very good at defending. Both teams are in kind of questionable spots. The only issue with Minnesota is they've been off for so long that their offense might struggle a little bit early in the game. So that would be my worry there. But the total did flip to 6.5, juice to the over. So I don't really disagree with the over there. I really don't like the side at all in one way or the other. Both teams just in bad spots, man. Chicago at Edmonton. Chicago not going anywhere. Edmonton pretty much safely in the playoffs. Chicago has lost 4 games in a row. They might get up for this game, though, because this is the start of a new road trip. A lot of times when things aren't going well, you start a new road trip. It's like hitting the reset button and you focus. They're not going to overlook Edmonton, so you might get an effort out of Chicago here. Edmonton's won 4 games in a row. They are staying at home. They do have Vegas on deck, which is a bit of a bigger game. So I'm going to have a slight lean towards Chicago in this one. Edmonton down to minus 228 here. We don't see the percentages yet, but you'd be able to get Chicago at probably like a decent puck line price on that one. Calgary at Vegas. Calgary just got wrecked by Colorado, and that was the game before last night's Colorado game versus Vancouver. Colorado's probably feeling a bit high. After beating anybody 9-2, you might be feeling pretty high. Calgary coming off a 9-2 loss. You got to figure they're probably going to show up and try to win a game. Even though they're not going anywhere this year, they get to play a team that's going to be in the playoffs in Vegas. They're coming off a really horrendous-looking loss, even though it was to the best team in hockey. I think you're going to get effort out of Calgary here. Now, for Vegas, they just beat Vancouver on Monday, and they're staying at home. Now, I forgot to mention, Vegas actually fired their coach, and they did, I guess, because they hired a new coach. They have John Tortorella now, who's been around, a former Ranger coach, by the way. And where else was he? I forget. He was on multiple different teams, coaching multiple different teams. But anyway, I completely forgot to mention that on Monday, because a lot of times when a team has a new coach, it sparks the team. Like if they didn't like that previous coach and they like the new coach, they'll play harder, especially in that first game. And a lot of times the players want to prove that like the reason why the team was losing was not them and it was the coach. So Vegas had actually lost 6 of their last 7 games prior to that. They bring in Tortorella and they win, although it was against Vancouver, who suck. Calgary also suck. But Vegas does have Edmonton on deck. That is a bigger game against Edmonton. This specific spot, I think maybe there could be a little bit of a letdown after you have that big, you get up like big for your new coach, you know what I mean? Sometimes it will just give you momentum that carries and you will start winning a bunch of games, but I'm going to lean to Calgary in this game. Vegas, the pressure is a little bit more on them as well because they're trying to maintain a playoff spot here. They're tied with Utah right now. It's just that Vegas has the tiebreaker, so that's why they're in. They're in because they're in the Pacific. Utah is in the Central. That's why. So I don't even know which one of those teams has the tiebreaker. So Vegas, they do not want to fall out here. Although I don't think they're not going to miss the playoffs. But they do have to worry about falling into a wild card spot. But maybe that means the pressure is going to be on them. Calgary has no pressure on them. You know what I mean? Because they're not going to make the playoffs. So. Vegas at minus 245 here, 95% of the tickets, 99% of the cash on them. Do with that information what you want. Toronto at San Jose. Both of these teams just beat Anaheim. Toronto has more rest, though, because San Jose played yesterday. Toronto hasn't played since Monday, and they're staying in California here. So maybe a little bit of an advantage there, having extra rest and having already adjusted to the time zone. But they did just beat Anaheim, which is a big win. They got the Kings on deck who are currently in the playoffs. So, Toronto might overlook San Jose, possibly, because San Jose is not going to be a playoff team, most likely. San Jose also just beat Anaheim, like I said, and they did it yesterday. Now, they're staying at home, but they have a rest disadvantage because they played yesterday. They might not totally pay attention to Toronto either. The money is indicating on San Jose, though. They're minus 120, 79% of the tickets on Toronto, 92% of the cash on San Jose. So the money's indicating on San Jose. I kind of disagree with that one, too, though. I kind of lean slightly towards Toronto, but possibly this is another game where you could potentially look towards an over, though. I worry a little bit because Toronto's had enough rest that maybe it'll mess with their offense, and, they don't have Austin Matthews for the rest of the season, I'm pretty sure. But with two teams with nothing left to play for, basically, these games can kind of turn into like scrimmages where the defense isn't as intense. So over, doesn't, it's not like, over kind of makes sense to me, I should say. Utah at Seattle. This is the second of the Hulu games here. Utah is trying to stay in the playoff race here. Seattle has a chance to make the playoffs still, too, so both these teams are going to be motivated. Utah just beat the Kings 6-2 on Saturday, so they've been off for a while. Coming off a pretty big win. LA is currently in the last wildcard spot, overtaking Nashville. And that's going to be interesting given what the matchup is in the last game we're going to talk about here. Utah should be focused here, but, with time off, maybe they are kind of riding that high from that LA win. Seattle might be a little bit more desperate here, which sometimes means the pressure is on you, but sometimes it means you could get a team playing a little bit looser. But the problem with Seattle is they're returning home from a long road trip. They've been on the road since the 19th. That's insane. March 19th. That's crazy. You almost never see a road trip this long anymore, and they didn't do well on the road trip either. But I talk about this. When a team returns home from road trips, it's difficult. You got to get back to home life, especially when you've been away for that long. Stuff happens that you have to do at home, man. This is a big game, though, for both teams. Like, Seattle is trying to stay alive here. Like, they're actually right here in the thick of it. They're only two points back from the wild card here. And actually, San Jose is closer than I thought, man. San Jose could potentially make the playoffs. So I scratch what I just said about San Jose, man. That's why the money's coming in on San Jose, because they do have a chance to make the playoffs. But I still lean to Toronto in that. I think that means the pressure is actually more on San Jose there. So again, some additional information there. But Seattle. These teams are all so clustered in here, man, between LA, San Jose, Nashville, Winnipeg. Winnipeg, who we're on today, by the way, is a big underdog. They're actually in this hunt too. So that might actually help our play. That Winnipeg's going to have more motivation as a big underdog. And Seattle here, and really St. Louis. Every one of those teams is within 4 points of each other, and they're all fighting basically for one playoff spot. That's absolutely insane. So Seattle's in that thick of it there, but it's a very difficult spot for Seattle, returning home from that long of a road trip. I would have to lean to Utah. I mean, Utah kind of needs to show up as well, man. They're minus 130 on the money line. I would have to lean towards fading a team coming back from that long of a road trip. Both teams with motivation there, though. Nashville at the Kings. Like I said, I'm laughing at this because these are the two teams these were the two teams that were the closest there to fighting for the wild card, but now San Jose has thrown themselves in the mix there. Still, this is a huge game. LA currently holds the last wild card. Predators are 1 point behind them, so if Nashville wins this game, they'll jump ahead of LA again here. We know that LA is not good at home either. Nashville is having to fly from Florida here, though. Nashville just lost a close game at Tampa Bay. They've had a bunch of days off. They haven't played since Sunday, but still, the time zone adjustment sometimes can kind of mess with you. Nashville having to have played in Florida, now going all the way out to California for a 10:30 p.m. game. Might not be that easy. The Kings are staying at home, so they're at least adjusted to the time zone. Problem is they played last night, so they do have a pretty big rest disadvantage here. They beat St. Louis barely last night, and they used Forsberg in net, so probably they're going to use Kemper in net this time, who's been their primary goalie here. LA not good at home, though, like I mentioned. They're 11, 17, and 8 at home. That's pretty bad. Nashville, not exactly great on the road, 14, 16, and 6. This is a very, very difficult game to handicap. The money seems to kind of be indicating on Nashville early. LA down from minus 130 to minus 119. We don't see the percentages yet. I mean, I don't know, man. I mean, I guess I'm going to agree with Nashville slightly. I mean, they do have a huge rest edge there, but I'm kind of rooting against them at this point, man, because they've let me down so many times and because they made such a big deal out of their stupid Pride night. So there you go. All right, let's do NBA. I don't find this to be a very interesting NBA board. I know I skipped NBA last night, too, and the night before that, even though the night before that we did get Orlando right. Celtics actually got a fairly easy win against Miami last night, so I'm happy to be wrong when that's the case. All right. Phoenix and Charlotte is the first game here. Phoenix is already in the Eastern time zone. They just lost to Orlando in that game that I was right about on Tuesday. Possible bounce back for Phoenix. I mean, Phoenix is, I believe they're playing to try to avoid the play-in right now, although so is Charlotte, really. So both teams kind of have a similar motivation here. They're both going to be in the either the playoffs or the play-in at worst for both of these teams. Charlotte just had an easy win at Brooklyn. They're returning home from a single-game road trip there. I don't have a good read on this game at all. There's just no angle that I really like here at all. The market read is saying to take the points with Phoenix. Hornets are down from 6 to 5. 78% of tickets, 54% of the cash on them. So it looks like the cash percentage is indicating towards Phoenix. We know Phoenix, they're really good against the spread this year for the most part. So I'm not going to really disagree with leaning towards taking the points with Phoenix. Not really a game that I want to get involved in. And I believe Brooks did come back for Phoenix in the last game. Let me see. He's not on the injury report, so I think he did. So this will be the second game with him back, and usually the first game is the game where that's kind of a problem. It looks like Mark Williams is out now. Mac Williams, he's an underrated big man. I think he's pretty solid. So he's been out for like a month, though. I didn't even realize he was out. But anyway, yeah, I'm going to lean to Phoenix there. There's an Amazon Prime doubleheader. The two best games are both on that, so the schedule makers got that right. Minnesota at Detroit is the first game, although we know Cade Cunningham is not playing for Detroit. Anthony Edwards did play, I think, in the last Minnesota game. I think he came back and played against Dallas. He's questionable for tonight, but I'm assuming he's going to go because I'm pretty sure he did play in this game, right? Let me see. He did, but he came off the bench, so they kind of worked his way back in. He played actually pretty well off the bench. He did a lot in 23 minutes. So I think Edwards is probably going to start tonight. That would be my guess, even though he is listed as questionable right now. Minnesota did just beat Dallas by 30 points on Monday, but they're not going to overlook Detroit, especially when Detroit just beat them by 22 at Minnesota, and that was without Anthony Edwards, I'm pretty sure. And, of course, Cunningham did not play in that game for Detroit. So Minnesota might make some adjustments here, to that ugly home loss to Detroit. Detroit really doesn't have that much to play for here, man. I mean, they're pretty much locked into the 1 seed in the East. So at some point, they're going to be focused on making sure they're a bit healthy going into the playoffs, I mean, maybe they'll show up for this game because it's one of their last bigger games. They just beat Toronto on Tuesday by double digits. I like Minnesota in this game, though. I think the motivation is more on the Minnesota side, kind of jockeying for playoff positioning at the very least, and they have that road revenge angle, if you want to call it that, more like an adjustment. Pistons down from 5.5 to 3, probably indicative that Edwards is going to play for the T-Wolves here. Don't see the percentages yet, but I'm leaning towards taking the points with the Wolves in that one. The other prime game is Lakers at Thunder. LA at Oklahoma City here. Lakers are one of the hottest teams in basketball right now. Still don't know if I'm necessarily buying it. I still don't really trust their defense. They did just beat Cleveland. Cleveland seems like they're almost intentionally going for the 4 seed so that they get to play Detroit in the second round of the playoffs and avoid Celtics and Knicks. The Lakers... Yeah, that was a win. It was a good win for the Lakers, though, over Cleveland for sure. But they're not going to overlook Oklahoma City either, It's a big game here. Oklahoma City technically still trying to hang on to the 1 seed. I think it's pretty unlikely at this point that the Spurs will be able to overtake them, though. Oklahoma City playing a third big game in a row. They just beat the Knicks and Detroit at home. They beat Detroit in overtime, though. And I will, sometimes I mention this, Oklahoma City was a double-digit favorite in that game. Detroit without Cunningham, whatever. So sometimes when a team's a huge favorite and they barely get by, you'll see a better effort out of them in the next game. But I kind of just see that as a big win, though. Like, you just beat Detroit, man. Like, you don't really consider yourselves to be that huge of a favorite, really, when you're playing the best team in the Eastern, not the best team, but the team with the best record in the Eastern Conference, even if they are without their best player. This is a difficult game to handicap. The money is indicating on the Thunder, for what that's worth. 55% of tickets on LA. Thunder are down from 10 to 9 here. 64% of the money on the Thunder. I mean, the odds makers are telling you something by lining the Thunder as almost a double-digit favorite against the Lakers. I mean, the Thunder probably only get about 2 points for home court, so odds makers telling you there is a disparity between these two teams. I don't believe there are any real injuries here, but I could be wrong. Let me see. Not really. I mean, Marcus Smart is out for the Lakers. You know, so pretty much the rosters are close to being fully intact in that game. Yeah, I mean, the money is saying the Thunder. I mean, I don't really have an opinion one way or the other there, so do with that information what you want. I prefer to see the Lakers lose, though, just because I can't stand them. Can't stand ya. As we'll reference Seinfeld constantly on the show. Cleveland at Golden State. Cleveland just lost to the Lakers. Like I said, they're staying in the Pacific time zone for this 1 day off. They might get up for a game against the Warriors. I mean, this is their biggest, well, I don't know if this is their biggest remaining game because they do play Atlanta twice late in the season, and Atlanta is in the playoff race right now. So I don't know. I mean, Golden State, they're not having a good season. I mean, they lost Jimmy Butler. Curry looks like he might not come back. So I don't know. I don't know how much you really pay attention to Golden State at this point. Golden State just lost by double digits at home yesterday to San Antonio. So they have no rest, but they are staying at home off an ugly loss. So, pretty tough game to handicap here as well. Cavs are a 10-point favorite, down from 10.5. So the money slightly indicating towards the Warriors. I guess I probably would lean towards taking the points of the Warriors there, but again, that is not a game I want to get involved in at all. Yeah, I have no respect for those rooting interests there. How the fuck are you a Yankee fan and a Laker fan? It's like you intentionally just want to pick the most despicable teams to root for. It's so fucking stupid, dude. The Lakers are just like this gay, like Hollywood team that's always been their identity. The Celtics are always like the blue collar, like we're going to physically beat you up type of team, and that's how they got to the Lakers so often, like back in the 80s, because the Lakers couldn't match the Celtics' physicality and kind of their mental games. The Lakers were not tough, you know what I mean? Yankees also kind of have that same aura, you know what I mean, with the stupid pinstripes and how they didn't allow beards until they started allowing them just for Devin Williams last year, and he was a complete ass closer, and now he's not even on the team. It's all so stupid, man. Yankees with that stupid, you know, buttoned up aura that they have there. Oh, we have to have this clean look. We're professionals. Yeah, that's gay. All right. Whereas obviously the Red Sox had that, you know, blue collar. It's the Boston personality, man. The blue collar personality. Like, no, we're gonna get down and dirty in the mud. You know, we're the idiots. You know what I mean? We're gonna have all massive beards and long hair and pine tar over our helmets. You know what I mean? Yeah, that's what I like, man. I like tough, dirty men. All right. There you go. Bruins have that same attitude, too. All right. Couple of NBA games left here. New Orleans at Portland. This is actually probably my strongest opinion, which is really ridiculous to even think about. The Pelicans, I mean, they're just playing out the stretch here. They finally did not have a good game against Houston. Now they've been off since Sunday, and they're starting a road trip. I think it's a good spot for New Orleans because you lose 5 games in a row. One of the best things for you is to just forget about it. Just disrupt that losing momentum by having, you know, a lot of time off and then go out on the road. I think that's helpful to New Orleans. Meanwhile, Portland just pulled off an upset against the Clippers, who they're jockeying with for positioning for the play-in spots and whatever. Portland has big games on deck against Denver, San Antonio, and then the Clippers again. So this does look like the flat spot in Portland's schedule here. Against New Orleans, and they have less rest because they played on Tuesday and pulled off that mild upset. So I like the Pelicans in this one. Blazers down from 7.5 to 6. That is my strongest opinion, although you're not getting the key number anymore of 7.5, where teams stop intentionally fouling. But I would lean towards the Pelicans in that one. Dude, how the fuck does he come up with these teams to root for? You would think that with his other rooting interests, he'd root for either the Cowboys or the Patriots or something. I have no idea, dude. Falcons makes absolutely no sense, but at least I respect that, though, at the very least. All right. San Antonio at the Clippers here. San Antonio just beat Golden State. I mean, to me, it's almost like they're kind of going through the motions, but they're winning all these games, although most of them are against not great teams. I don't think they're going to catch the Thunder, but they're still only 2 games back of the Thunder, or 2.5 maybe. They do have Denver on deck. Maybe they consider that to be a bigger game. Clippers are coming off that loss to Portland, and they are staying at home. Clippers, really, I think they have more to play for here because they're jockeying for positioning and trying to avoid the play-ins if they can. So I lean to the Clippers in this one, and the money agrees with me on this. Spurs down from 4.5 to 4. 88% of the tickets on the Spurs, 70% of the cash on the Clippers. That is a spot where when you kind of know that a team has more to play for, like the Clippers, but in this case, they're actually a home underdog. You know that they're not going to be like really overvalued in the market, you know, and you know you're going to get an effort out of them. They're trying to win the game, and they're an underdog, so they can fall short and still cover for you, you know what I mean? So that's the type of situation that I do like. So I do like the Clippers in that one, plus the points. Not a play for me, though. And then we have men's college basketball to talk about here. The college basketball crown continues, where last night Oklahoma won, but I think they had to go into overtime to get it done against a shell of a Colorado team. It seems like they took them lightly, and then I was correct about Baylor. Baylor won easily last night, so they both advanced. The other 2 games in this first round are tonight, also at the MGM Grand in Las Vegas, so same venue as last night. Now, I'll mention what I mentioned yesterday as well, that these teams have been off for a while now, so their offenses could be a little bit cold, and the shooting could be off, like especially early in the game, because they have to get used to a new venue and shooting in a new venue. Although it's going to be worse in the Final Four because it's in this huge football stadium. You know, it's at the Colts Stadium, Lucas Oil. But in this case, you know, the MGM Grand Arena is not a huge basketball venue, so the sight lines might not be as bad. But still, these teams have to get used to the new arena still. They have to, you know, get used to playing again. So I think both games last night actually were fairly low scoring. First half unders do make sense in situations like this when you think teams are going to start slow because they haven't played for a while. We know that West Virginia, first game is Stanford and West Virginia. West Virginia, they play ridiculously slow. So it might be, you know, pretty extreme in this case. You might get a very low scoring first half in this one. Now, Stanford, they were pretty much embarrassed. Like, they were looking to maybe try to put themselves in the tournament picture, and they lost right away as favorites to Pitt in the opening round of the ACC tournament. So I think Stanford actually might get up for this game because they don't want that to be the last game of the season that they had. You know what I mean? Losing as a favorite and pretty much ending your tournament hopes. I mean, that's ridiculous. So I think they're going to be excited to play again here. And as I mentioned yesterday, these teams are all playing for NIL money, so that's the incentive here. I think West Virginia probably wants to be here too. I mean, it seemed like the only team that didn't really want to was Colorado, and they still played pretty tough last night. West Virginia had a pretty ugly loss to BYU to get knocked out of the Big 12 tournament there. I think maybe the motivational edge is slightly towards Stanford, but the money is coming in on West Virginia. Stanford's a 1-point favorite. 55% of tickets, 93% of the cash on West Virginia. Money indicating on West Virginia. I mean, West Virginia is kind of that team that I usually consider to be a bet-on team because they play ridiculously ugly and slow, and that could frustrate opponents, you know, and bettors never want to bet on teams that play like that. So, you know, I don't have that much of a reason to disagree with West Virginia there, other than the fact that Stanford's last loss was a bit uglier. I think the under kind of makes more sense here. 52% of tickets, 58% of the cash on the under. Totals at 136 for the full game. If I look at Ken Bomb real quick here, let me see. Where are these teams at? West Virginia is third slowest in the entire country. Stanford is fairly slow as well. Both teams, I think, are top 100 defenses. Yeah, West Virginia is actually a top 20 defense, and Stanford is within the top, 80. So, yeah, I don't disagree with an under. First half under, like I said, makes a lot of sense in a game like this, too, where you have two slow teams that play defense, and they have to get used to the sight lines again, and neither team is that good on offense. So, yeah, the first half under makes sense. Full game under also makes sense to me in that game. The other game in this tournament after that is Rutgers and Creighton. So like I mentioned, some of these conferences got auto bids into this tournament, which I don't know how those are determined. Rutgers took a loss somewhere in the Big Ten tournament. They beat Minnesota, actually, in that tournament, I think. Then they lost to UCLA. So, that's not an embarrassing loss, losing to UCLA, who wound up in the tournament, of course. Creighton lost to Seton Hall, who did not make the tournament, but Seton Hall was not that bad either. Probably the fourth best team in the Big East, Seton Hall was. This is interesting with Creighton here. Creighton, I mean, they're used to being in the actual tournament, so I don't know how excited they're going to be in this thing. Rutgers is not really a team that's always in the, the big dance, you know what I mean? Creighton is basically always in the big dance, so I don't know how excited they're going to be in this thing, but they are favored by 4, up from 2.5, and the money is coming in on them. 79% of tickets, 96% of the cash on Creighton. The other thing you got to be aware of is Creighton, their coach is stepping down. Doug McDermott, is that his name? He has announced that he's stepping down as their coach. I don't know if he's retiring or if he might go somewhere else. But Creighton already had a plan in place where Alan Huss, I think is his name, the coach from High Point, not this year, but last year and the years prior to that, he has been the assistant for Creighton over this past season, and he was basically in line to take over, knowing that McDermott was going to step down. So I was like, which team was that again? Oh, yeah, it's Creighton. So I don't know who's coaching this game. That would be something to look into. Actually, I'm going to look right into it right now. Let me see. Creighton crown coach. Let's see. A little bit of a McDermott is coaching, it looks like here. He announced his retirement, but he is going to coach here. With my alliteration for my Google search there. You know what? That means Creighton might have a little bit of a motivational boost there, you know what I mean? Even though Creighton might not feel good about not being in the tournament because they're always in the actual tournament, pretty much. The last few years they have been, but because they know that this is McDermott's last ride, this could literally be the last game that McDermott coaches if they lose. So that might actually motivate the players, you know what I mean? Because they want to send him off in the right way. So I actually think because of that, Creighton is actually going to try to win this thing. To send McDermott out in a good way. So I'm not going to disagree with the Creighton side then, for that reason. So it's an interesting thing to think about there. Rutgers, they are going to try to slow the game down. They play an ugly, slow style. They're not particularly good on defense or offense, so they're a little bit better on defense than offense, but outside the top 100 in both. Creighton is actually in the top 75 in Ken Bum's overall rankings, that actually better on both sides of the ball, offense and defense. And Creighton actually doesn't play that fast this year. So, all that being said, I will actually lean to Creighton in that one, even though my first instinct was to fade them because I thought they'd be disappointed to be in this thing. But now I'm thinking about it, and because of the McDermott, inspiration aspect of that, I probably swing around to the other side there. I like Creighton. Dirty Sock, what's up? Thank you, sir. Thank you, everybody. All right. Mr. Pinsy's never coming back because I yelled at him. All right, and then we do have the NIT Semifinals, the NIT back in action. And, dude, I'm so used to this being in Madison Square Garden, and it's not. We're looking at Hinkle Fieldhouse in Indianapolis, which is where Butler plays. So Butler is hosting these, so that does mean that these teams won't have to get used to this, football stadium. But still, if you haven't played at Hinkle Fieldhouse, it is still kind of weird to play in. It looks like an airplane hangar. and the sides go like way, way out and up. If you've watched Hoosiers, classic movie, R.I.P. Gene Hackman, the Hinkle Fieldhouse was used in that movie. Like, that's where they're playing, like, the state championship or whatever in that game, in that, in that movie. So, yeah, I mean, you guys know what I'm talking about. Anyway, yes. So that's where this is. It's at Butler's home arena here. First game is New Mexico and Tulsa. Now, both of these teams have played every game of the tournament so far at home. And New Mexico has a big home advantage in the pit. So them having to go from Albuquerque or whatever all the way out to Indianapolis for this is kind of a weird spot for New Mexico, I would say. They lose the home advantage they had. They beat Sam Houston, George Washington, St. Joe's to get here. I'm not that impressed by those wins, really. Obviously, I'm not impressed by whatever St. Joe's, man. George Washington was better than people think, though. You know, Sam Houston, not that bad either. Tulsa plays really good offense, and they don't play defense very well. Tulsa is coming off kind of a big win, really, if you think about it. They played all their games at home. They beat Stephen F. Austin, UNLV, and then they beat Wichita, and that was kind of a big game against Wichita because it was revenge. Because Wichita was the team that knocked Tulsa out of the American Conference, man. So that was kind of a big win for Tulsa there. And Tulsa playing at home in all these games, they got to go now play in Indianapolis, which is going to be weird for them too. New Mexico is definitely the better of the two teams. New Mexico, of course, they did not make the actual tournament, but at this point, they're obviously trying to win the NIT. I mean, they've made it to the Final Four here. New Mexico's pretty balanced. They're almost top 50 in both offense and defense. They do play fast, but so does Tulsa. So that's the thing. New Mexico kind of does similar things to Tulsa, but they're just kind of better at it. Tulsa is a slightly better offense, but Tulsa's way worse on defense than New Mexico is. Tulsa actually doesn't play as fast as I thought. They're more a little bit mid-tempo, I would say. But, yeah, I like New Mexico in this one. Again, I think the cream might kind of start rising to the top here. They're laying 3.5, 61% of tickets, 82% of the cash on New Mexico. Even though we're removing their home advantage here, you're doing the same thing to Tulsa. Yeah, I like New Mexico in that one. And then the other game is Illinois State and Auburn. Illinois State is the only one of the teams remaining that has not played every game at home. In fact, they actually won 2 road games against Wake Forest and Dayton. And after they beat Dayton, my guess is, well, I was going to say they stayed in the area, but Illinois State, is, you know, they're staying in the area anyway, right? Because they were in Ohio for the Dayton game. This game's in Indianapolis. And if Illinois State went back to campus or whatever, that's only going to Illinois, so that's not even a big deal. So Illinois does have a little bit of a geographic advantage here. But they are coming off 2 upset wins. So in their path, they beat Kent State, and then they beat Wake and Dayton on the road. So, you know, I don't love a team coming off back-to-back upsets like that necessarily and ask them to pull off a 3rd straight upset. Auburn is definitely the best team in this tournament. I know everybody's shitting on Auburn. Oh, Auburn doesn't deserve to make the NCAA tournament, whatever. Yeah, okay, but Auburn is, you know, they're pretty good, to be honest. Ken Baum's got them 40th overall in the country. They're not good on defense, though. They're a top 12 offense, but they're outside the top 100 on defense, and that is the question with Auburn. And they play a mid-tempo style, kind of a weird style for Auburn this year. Illinois State is the better defense, so that's the thing. They're the way worse offense, but they're a significantly better defense, and they play a little bit slower than Auburn. So Illinois State does fall into that category of, well, they are road tested for one thing, but I was going to say they play better defense, so they are the better defense getting points here technically. So that is one reason to maybe like Illinois State here. Although Auburn is kind of the better, I mean, Auburn is the better team. They're laying 6.5 here, down from 7. The money looks like it is kind of indicating on Auburn. 65% of tickets, 91% of the cash on them. I think I lean towards taking the points with Illinois State in this one, though, man. Even though I would love to see Auburn win the NIT and just shut all the naysayers up. And Auburn-New Mexico final would actually be a fun game to watch. So that's kind of what I'm rooting for. But Illinois State's a pretty good team, man. You know, especially on the defensive side of things. And they're playing in their area of the country. They're road tested. It's just that, you know, you're kind of asking them to pull off 3 straight upsets in a row. Although at least in this case, you're only asking them to cover if you take the points with them. So all things to consider there. And then, unders potentially worth, maybe worth looks in these games. I wouldn't want to do it in Tulsa, New Mexico, really, though, because these teams play a bit faster to some extent and kind of rely more on offense. The Illinois State-Auburn game is really more of that's like a correlated thing where, like, if you like the under, you probably like Illinois State. If you like the over, then you probably like Auburn. You know what I mean? Because Auburn, if they're going to cover, they're going to be scoring more points. If Illinois State's going to cover, they're going to be slowing the game down and playing defense. The total's at 149 in that game. The Tulsa, New Mexico game, it's obviously higher at 161.5. But, of course, with these teams playing in a new venue that they're not necessarily familiar with, unders early kind of makes sense. So if you wanted to go under, like, first half Illinois State, Auburn, that makes sense to me as well for those reasons. So that's going to do it, man. And, of course, my screen share gets all messed up there. Leaving and playing media and going in and out. StreamYard's got some issues, man. Oh, Pinsy's in the office? That sucks. That's true. Yeah, I know what that's like. Not for a while, but I've spent, 2 decades working in offices. Oh, yeah, Tyson. That's right. How did I forget about Mr. Chicken? Tyson, yeah, Mike Tyson. Where's he at, man? He's too broke to bet. Oh, so, okay, yeah. I don't want to tempt him, man. I don't want to be, I don't want to be his poison apple or his, serpent or whatever. Yeah, but, if he's able to watch without being tempted to bet, obviously I would be happy. I would be happy to have these guys back anytime, even though I might yell at you for things, especially Pinsy, because his rooting interests are terrible. But that's going to do it, man. My only play of the day is the Winnipeg Jets, like I said. If you want to go just money line on this, you could do that too. I'm going split bet, partially on the puck line, partially on the money line there. I like the spot for Winnipeg, so that's where we're going with that. Only play of the day. Let's have a good day, everybody. Let's get a win. Let's have my one play on my birthday be a winner. How about that? All right. Yeah, that's going to do it. Learn to Toad on Twitter. Learn to Toad on Instagram. Like, subscribe. Give me good comments on the channel here. Let's boost this thing. We have a kind of a slow growth right now. Let's get a faster growth. We're on audio as well. Apple, Spotify. You can check it out there. Covered in Uke is my Uke channel on YouTube. Patreon.com/LearnToToad for some bonus stuff that I never keep up with. And Losercast every Tuesday night. That's going to do it. Thanks, guys, for hanging out. All right. Peace.